Did you know that at Perkins School of Theology, where I went to seminary, there is a professor, a man named Reuben Avito, who is both a former Jesuit priest, and if you know anything about Jesuits, you know that they're very serious about their faith, who is both a Jesuit priest and a practicing Buddhist. Did you know that? It's true. Buddhism is a very, very unique set of beliefs, a very unique religion that Christians, should they so choose, can actually practice without giving up their core beliefs in Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, or God the Creator. Did you know that? Some of you, of course, knew that because you know either Christian Buddhists or you know some of the Buddhists that help us in our food pantry. But some of you may not know. You see, I count myself in the former category, at least until I met Dr. Avito, because I was always under the impression that religions were mutually exclusive, that they couldn't commingle, that you had to be one or the other. And mostly that's true. But it's not necessarily true for Buddhism. And I'll tell you why. Starts with a story, like so many good things do. Starts with a story about a man named Siddhartha Gautama. Siddhartha was born in 563 BCE in what we would call Nepal. 563 BCE means he was born almost 6 centuries before Christ and almost 6 centuries after what we studied last week, after Hinduism came onto the front. Buddhism is sort of a nice middle point in our timeline so far between Hinduism and Christianity. Now, from this map up here, you can see that his birthplace in Nepal shares a long border with India, the subcontinent of India, where, again, we learned last week that the religion of Hinduism was born, or at least where it is now most substantially residing, and it was certainly in Siddhartha's time as well. So, Siddhartha Gautama was born in an area where Hinduism was the leading religion, was the ruling religion. In fact, Siddhartha Gautama practiced Hinduism for a while, and in fact, further, many Hindu beliefs are foundational to Buddhism even still today. Siddhartha was born to a very, very wealthy family. Siddhartha's mother unfortunately died during his childbirth, perhaps as a response to that death and to that pain. Siddhartha's father decided that he was going to, as much as he possibly could, shelter Siddhartha from the world. And so Siddhartha grew up in the very, very lap of luxury. He was sort of the original, Siddhartha's father was sort of the original helicopter parent. So Siddhartha grew up in the lap of luxury, and he never experienced hunger or want. He never experienced disease, death, or disappointment. It's hard imagining being even able to shelter your child from such commonplace experiences, but I suppose that a powerful prince can do much. So Siddhartha grew up wanting for nothing. And when he was 16, as was common in his day, he got married. And later on, he and his wife had a son. And life continued well enough until Siddhartha was 29 years old. And at 29 years old, Siddhartha found himself deeply struggling with where he belonged and what he was supposed to do or what he was supposed to be. And so at the age of 29, he started a long journey to try to figure out his place in the world. And I want to stop here and just talk for a couple of minutes because I believe that feeling of not knowing, or that feeling of there's got to be more than this, is a feeling that so many of us can relate to, because it is my experience that we too struggle with the How often have we asked ourselves, what's going on out there? Or how often have we said, does anyone care out there? Or how often have you said to yourself or to your spouse or significant other, maybe I'm supposed to be somewhere else out there? Maybe you said, maybe things would be a bit better for me, or maybe things would be a bit better for my family if I was somewhere else out there. You know that feeling. I know that feeling. I've known that feeling a number of different times in my life. A number of different times when I was uncertain, I began to wonder about the out there. Maybe you're feeling it now. Maybe you're wondering about the out there's because of a situation you have at home or at work. Yes, we've all felt that way, and that's where Siddhartha Gautama found himself when he was 29. That's how he was feeling. He was feeling what psychologists have now come to call angst. He felt angst. And he felt that angst for 6 years. Now for him, the source of this angst came as he was an adult. He began to take chariot rides in the city where he was born. And so the further and further out he went from his home and into the city where he was raised but had never been, he would ask his charioteer as he encountered different situations the same question. On one chariot ride, he was out and he saw an old man who was bent over with age. Shocked, Siddhartha Gautama looks at his charioteer and he says, "Is this what we are all destined for?" And the charioteer looked at Siddhartha, perhaps a little perplexed, and said, "Yes, Siddhartha, we all get old." Yet on another chariot ride, perhaps a couple of days later, Siddhartha this time saw a sick person. A person who was sick almost to death, and shocked, he looked at his charioteer and he said, "Is this what we are all destined for?" And the charioteer looked at Siddhartha and said, "Yes, Siddhartha, we are all destined to get sick at some point." And yet, he was out on another chariot ride sometime later, and this time he saw a funeral procession. In fact, he even saw the body in the casket. Shocked, he asked his charioteer, "Is this what we are all destined for? Are we all destined to die?" And his charioteer said, "Yes, Siddhartha, we are all destined to die." Understandably, Siddhartha felt angst. And he wanted to find a way to alleviate, just as we might want to in the same situation. He began to look for a way to alleviate that angst. And he was already in a position of somewhat advantage because he knew that his current lifestyle, the lifestyle of luxury, the lifestyle of wanting for nothing, he knew that lifestyle could do nothing to alleviate that angst. And so he tried the exact opposite of that. He began to deny himself. He denied himself food. He denied himself shelter. He denied himself a great deal of many things. Now this part is probably apocryphal, but it said that he denied himself so much that he began to subsist on a single grain of rice per day. Now obviously he didn't do that for very long, but this search for something to alleviate the angst went on, I think I've told you this already, for 6 years. And he tried everything. And yet the angst remained. Finally, at the age of 35, the age which I will turn on Wednesday, he sat down under a tree that he'd done before and he began to meditate as he had done before. But during this round of meditation, he fell into a deep trance, and he began to see the world as he had never seen the world before. He began to see the world, he thought, in a way that the world had never been seen. And during this trance, he felt he was finally granted a way out of this angst. It was during this trance, during this meditation, that Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha. The word Buddha comes from the Pali word Bud, B-U-D-H, which means enlightened. So the Buddha became the enlightened one. During this trance, he reached enlightenment. So powerful was this trance, so powerful was this realization, so powerful was this hope that he could somehow finally alleviate his angst. He spent the next 45 years teaching about his vision, teaching about the beliefs and practices that he learned in that vision, teaching about the beliefs and practices that would eventually release humans from this terrible cycle of reincarnation. That's how Buddhism began. 5 centuries, 6 centuries after Hinduism began, Buddhism found its place in the world. That's how it started. Let's take a couple of minutes and see if we can learn a little bit about what Buddhists believe. And I have to start with one of the most fascinating beliefs in Buddhism. Buddhists are officially, and they're the only major world religion that's like this, Buddhists are officially non-theistic. Now that's substantially different from atheistic, and that's substantially different from agnostic. Non-theism means that practitioners of the non-theistic belief can neither confirm nor deny the existence of God, which is one of the ways that Christians can practice Buddhism and still believe in God. It's the only world religion like that. Also, it should be known that Buddhists don't worship Buddha, at least not for the most part. There are, of course, different flavors of Buddhism around the world. Some do, but by and large, Buddhists do not worship the Buddha. They look at the Buddha as a very revered person. They look at the Buddha as a guide to how to live, as a guide to how to escape reincarnation, but they do not worship it. One of the visions that the Buddha experienced that day revealed to him one of the foundational beliefs of Buddhism. That trance revealed to him the 4 noble truths, and they're going to be up here on the screen. You heard this, by the way? Some of you have the 4 noble truths? Yeah, I figured some of you have, yeah. So noble truth number 1. It's going to be up here. Life is characterized by suffering. Now, this isn't meant to be some sort of dark, scary, or evil description of the world. And actually, if you think about it, we might even be able to agree. Life is characterized by suffering. Life is not suffering, but it is characterized by suffering. If you think about it, sickness, hurt feelings, death, anxiety, stress, fear, crime, all of these things, these are characteristics of life, not life itself. It's simply an acknowledgement of the angst that you will encounter. Noble truth number 1, life is characterized by suffering. Noble truth number 2, suffering is caused by attachment. Suffering is caused, Buddhists believe, not by outside sources, but by our attachment to things, by our attachment to people. And it, again, makes sense if you think it through. We crave life. So in death, we suffer. We crave food. So in hunger, we suffer. We crave love and to be loved. And in the absence of it, when it is withdrawn, we suffer. Noble truth number 2. Suffering is caused by attachment. Noble truth number 3. The good news is we can overcome our attachments. Noble truth number 3 is we can overcome our attachments. Buddhists believe that we can overcome our attachments by disassociation, by dispassion, by renunciation. If we're no longer attached to the things or the people we love, when those things are removed, we do not suffer. Noble truth number 4 is actually a pathway. on which we can take to reach enlightenment. Noble truth number 4 is the eightfold holy path. The way to overcome suffering, the way to overcome attachment, the way to overcome all of these things, the sufferings that characterize life, is through the eightfold holy path. Cravings and desire and ignorance and delusions all begin to fade the further we find ourselves, this is what Buddhists believe, on the eightfold holy path. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the eightfold holy path simply because it's eightfold, but I will go over it with you, and this will be on the screen behind me as well. The eightfold holy path goes like this: right view, right intentions, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The Four Noble Truths and the eightfold holy path are arrived at through another cornerstone of Buddhist belief. Anybody know what it is? What are Buddhists known for? And somebody said what? Meditation. That's right. So this path and these four noble truths are arrived at through meditation. Buddhists also believe the same things that Hindus believe about karma. Remember karma, the ever delicate balance of good karma versus bad karma? They believe in karma. They believe in samsara, which is what we've already talked about, reincarnation. They also believe in nirvana. But what they believe about nirvana substantially differs from Hinduism. Remember with me that in Hinduism, when one reaches enlightenment, when one reaches nirvana, your soul, which is part of Brahman, which is part of God, goes back to God. Remember we talked about that ideology, that image of the drop becoming the sea. That's very different in Buddhism. Because in Buddhism, Buddhists believe that upon reaching nirvana, you simply end. You don't become part of Brahman or anything else. It's like if I were holding a candle and it was lit. This is what they believe about nirvana. You're just extinguished. You just stop. Those are, of course, not all of the Buddhists' major beliefs, but there are lots of them. And I want to take a few minutes to talk about some of the differences between their beliefs and ours. I think you probably already have realized that Buddhists and Christians actually line up pretty well in lots of different places. We can learn a lot from our brothers and sisters in Buddhism about meditation, experiencing the now, just being calm and being still and being quiet in this otherwise frenetic world. I also, to some extent, like one of the Four Noble Truths in that we don't have to be attached to things. We ought not to be attached to things that we ought not to be attached to. We talk about materialism in Christianity and how we ought not to be attached so much to things. We can learn from them. Also, our brothers and sisters in the Buddhist faith practice a very healthy lifestyle. If you are a Buddhist, you don't use tobacco, you don't drink. It's a healthier lifestyle. So you can see there's lots of places that we line up. But I know it won't also surprise you. It also